Welcome to Marking the End Times. I'm Mark Hitchcock. I want to thank you so much for joining us. I want to talk today about a shocking new development in the Russia-Ukraine war that I think could change the trajectory there very quickly. I mean, it's a stunning event, I think, that could be a total game changer there in that war. And then obviously has a lot of repercussions for the Gog Magog War predicted in Ezekiel chapter 38. So I want to talk about that on the program today. In this subscriber only section, I want to answer some questions. One of the questions is about the mark of the beast and who really institutes and brings that into being. And then another question about how do we know that Persia, that's mentioned in Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 5, as part of that end-time Gog coalition, how do we know that Persia really is the modern-day nation of Iran? So we'll get to those questions here in a little bit in the subscriber-only section. But I want to talk about what's been happening over in the Russia-Ukraine war. We all know that Vladimir Putin, who could be Gog, he could be Gog, who's mentioned in Ezekiel 38, he sees the current war between Russia and Ukraine, his invasion really of Ukraine, as existential and epic for Russia. A struggle they have to win. In other words, defeat's not an option. But things are going badly right now really for Russia and Ukraine. An article just came out this week that says the U.S. estimates that 20,000 Russian soldiers have been killed just since December. So in the last 5 months, it's estimated Russia has lost 20,000 soldiers. I mean, just think about that human toll that this is taking. They're also estimating that a further 80,000 have been injured in this war, just on the Russian side. So Russia seems to be becoming increasingly desperate in this war with Ukraine. There seem to be signs of panic in Moscow about what's happening. And it's believed by many that Russia now is facing a major counteroffensive by Ukraine, a major breakthrough, it's actually being called. So the situation there seems like it's about ready to really heat up. Well, as all of that's happening, Russia accused Ukraine on Wednesday of attacking the Kremlin with drones in an overnight failed attempt to assassinate President Vladimir Putin. So Russia is saying that Ukraine unleashed a drone attack against the Kremlin to try to assassinate Vladimir Putin. Now, this is a massive game changer. Now, immediately, a senior Ukrainian presidential official denied the accusation, which is the most serious accusation that Russia has leveled against Ukraine during this 14-month war. So this is by far the most serious accusation that's been leveled. Now, Russia, every year on May the 9th, Russia celebrates what's called Victory Day. It celebrates the Russian victory over the Nazis on May the 9th, when the war ended on May 9th, 1945. And so they have a Victory Day parade there in Red Square in the Kremlin. And so with this coming up here in just a few days, Russia is accusing Ukraine of trying to preempt all of that by taking out Vladimir Putin. Now, of course, at this time, I don't know exactly what happened, and probably neither does anyone else except the major players involved. But some are saying this could be a false flag. You know what false flag operations are? They're something that a country really does themselves, but so that they can blame on somebody else. So they can use that as a pretense or kind of a subterfuge to do what they want. So this could be a created crisis by Vladimir Putin and Russia, so that they can blame Ukraine for it, so that they can retaliate. Or it could have been carried out by some pro-Ukrainian element in Russia to try to escalate things as well. But either way, we can be assured that Russia is going to seize this to dramatically up the ante in their war with Ukraine. Now, the Kremlin said that Russia has the right now to retaliate. And hardliners in Russia are demanding swift retribution against Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. In fact, one person said this in Russia: the Russian side reserves the right to take retaliatory measures where and when it sees fit. The Speaker of the lower house of Russia's parliament issued a statement demanding the use of weapons capable of stopping and destroying the Kiev terrorist regime. So already people are beginning to come forth and just say, we've got to stop the Ukrainians. Now, here's what another well-known official said in Russia in the light of this supposed assassination attempt against Putin. It says, maybe now things will get started for real. So, I mean, this is a leader in Russia saying, now things are going to really get started for real. In other words, now we're going to really get after it, which, again, is implicating the idea that they're going to escalate this war there to a totally new level. One Western leader said he expects Putin now to use whatever tools he's got left, including nuclear threats and cyber attacks. Some other officials are saying they expect Russia to retaliate, and that we have to be prepared for extreme tactics as they attempt to hold on to Ukrainian territory. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev said last month that Russia was ready for the Ukrainians to hit back for a counteroffensive, warning that the country would use absolutely any weapon that they have. So Russia, I think, is setting the stage here for the use of tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine. The rhetoric is ratcheting up. They're laying the groundwork through, again, what could be this false flag crisis that they've created themselves to prepare the world for a dramatic escalation against Ukraine. Because what they can do is say, well, look, the Ukrainians have tried to take out our president, tried to assassinate Vladimir Putin. So, all the options are on the table. At the same time all this is happening, Russia has been working to station tactical nuclear weapons in neighboring Belarus. So they're going to make Belarus basically a nuclear power, and Belarus also borders Ukraine. And many are saying that Russia would never resort to the use of nuclear weapons. I've heard people say that recently. Well, those are many of the same people who said that Russia would never invade Ukraine. And I believe if the Russian bear feels like she's backed into a corner, that we can't underestimate what Russia might do. So Russia is seizing upon whatever it can and possibly even creating situations to justify the use of tactical nuclear weapons to pound Ukraine into submission and surrender. So however you look at this, Russian aggression is vastly and massively escalating. Now, to kind of piggyback on this a little bit, at the same time that this is happening, Russia is forcing the issue in several other nations as well. Russia is continuing to expand its footprint in the Middle East. Just this week, there was a meeting in Moscow between four nations, Russia, Turkey, Iran, and Syria. They hosted 2 days of talks between these nations. Now, again, if you know Ezekiel 38 and the Gog coalition, the three leaders of the northern arm or the northern flank of that coalition are Russia, Turkey, and Iran. And they're meeting in Moscow with Syria, which Syria is the nation that's just on the northern border of Israel, where Iran and Russia have troops. And of course, it borders Syria there, or Turkey borders Syria on its northern border. So all of this is happening at the same time, and also Russia and Iran have agreed to enter into a long-term strategic cooperation agreement. It's expected to be signed any day now. And I believe it's very possible that Russia's deepening ties and relationship with Iran, of Iran providing drones and weapons to Russia, Russia providing other weapons to Iran, that this could be the hooks in the jaws. In Ezekiel 38, it talks about this leader, Gog, and God's going to put hooks in his jaws to drag him into this conflict in the land of Israel. And it very well could be for Russia that they're deepening ties with Iran, which hates Israel and wants to destroy Israel. That could be the hooks in the jaws that eventually pull Russia into this conflict with Israel. Iranian President Raisi right now is on a 2-day visit to Damascus, Syria, where he's signing a strategic cooperation agreement. So this is just entrenching Iran even more into what's happening in Syria, which again is right on the northern border of Israel. One other thing that's happening right now is Iran is seeking sophisticated air defense systems from Russia. It's called these S-400 missiles. And if they get those missiles, it's going to be much more difficult for Israel to strike the nuclear facilities in Iran. Benjamin Netanyahu says this: the longer you wait, the harder it becomes, talking about striking Iran's nuclear facilities. We've waited very long. I can tell you that I will do everything in my power to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. They're saying, though, that if Iran gets these S-400s, these air defense missiles, it'll be about 2 years before they become operational. And basically now Israel has that window of time to be able to strike these nuclear facilities in Iran. So the window is rapidly closing. What we see here is just that Russia right now is pulling out all the stops. They probably created this false flag, assassination attempt against Vladimir Putin so they can escalate the situation and retaliate. They're holding meetings in Russia with Iran and Turkey and Syria. They're talking about giving these S-400 missiles to Iran. So Russia's pulling out all the stops. They're expanding their influence. I expect they're going to probably have a really forceful retaliation against Ukraine, possibly even the use of tactical nuclear weapons against Ukraine. So what we see here is that the coalition of the Gog Magog War just continues to develop and be set up, which is an indication the coming of Jesus Christ is near. Well, I'm going to go now into the subscriber-only section. Again, we're going to answer a question about the Antichrist and the false prophet in Revelation 13, a question about the mark of the beast, and then also a question about how do we know that Persia in Ezekiel 38:5 is really modern-day Iran. So we'll be back in just a moment, and we'll pick up there with those questions.